Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Belle was a B.O.W. So in the last video we talked about how during, not really in the perspective of Belle, but during the perspective of Eyes, apparently Eyes was told by the rest of the group, except for Belle and Bet, they were told to go to a village in the 15th floor of the dungeon to check out a certain, well, case. And as for Belle and, well, you know, Bet, they were told by Loki to go with her to the sewers because that's apparently where the monsters were sighted first. Because apparently some of the eyewitnesses saw that the monsters were coming out of the sewers. So, as both of them, all three of them technically, so all three of them would start going into the sewers as Beth would start complaining about the smell because, being a demi-human, in this case being half-wolf, would make sense. After all, he literally has enhanced senses, including smell, so let's just say it would be hell for him to stay there. So, after encountering a B.O.W. that's basically a woman that's fused with a plant, where he starts saying kill, 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 and mostly destroying everything. As everybody was basically afraid, well, Bell would bring out his shield as he would shout out his, little skill. In this case, Devour, which he basically chomped up a piece of, this B.O.W.'s, face off, or at least, some of his, body. But before Bell can actually, defeat it, somebody else kills it, being the man that was basically in the last episode. Specifically, the guy that was watching those Ganesha Familia members being killed, or at least one of them getting infected by the Lost Plagas. He would explain that he's been working with Dr. Ragnar, and he was experimented on to become a somewhat like a tyrant, but except with more sentience and a little bit more obedient, if you can say so. He would be stronger than Bell, in fact, as Bell would just be defeated, but Bell would not be killed by him because, arrogance and deciding to just, leave him out there. So, yeah, he would leave as both Bell and Bet would be astonished, including Loki, which she asked what the heck is going on, and also asking Bell why is he called Tyrant Type Zeus. So after explaining, Bet would just be what? And for, Loki, she would, be super confused, but she would, she would kind of understand. So after they left, Loki would just think in her mind that she could probably have some fun with Bell. In this case, maybe helping him with his little issues. What do I mean by this? Well, his issues with, being a tyrant. As in, not that type of tyrant, as in the tyrant from, the video game. So, yeah, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, Bell is basically in his room, basically just, training a little bit. Mostly in, his skill, basically his first skill being, Devour, as Bet would come in, as he would say this. Hey, Bell. As Bell would say this. Oh, hey, Bet. As Bet would say this. So, as he would say this. What? As he would say this. I'm here because, I'm kinda sorry for basically just, bullying you. As he would say this. You mean basically insulting me? As you'd say this. Yeah, I know that was uncalled for, and I know that you're quite angry at me, and I know that you're probably not going to forgive me. As you would say this. I mean, I can definitely see why you did that. As you would say this. What? As you would say this. Yeah, and don't worry, I'm not really mad. Besides, I've been through worse. As he would say this. Let me guess. As he would say this. Yeah. So, Basically, after that little conversation, they will be told by both, wait for a second, we're told to go into Loki's office because of something important. So, after they got into the office, they see Philia, or at least I think that's her name, just let me check. I meant Leafia, god dang it. So Leafia would be there as he would say this, being Belle. Wait, Leafia? You're back? As she would say this. No, we're here because we need your help. As Belle would say this. Wait, really? As Bet would say this. As usual, Runt. As he would start scratching the back of his neck, as Belle would notice two other people. As Belle would say this. Loki? Who are they? As she would say this. Oh, I forgot to introduce you to them. As the man would say this. Oh, don't mind it. Besides, I would introduce myself. So, yeah. He would stand up as he would bring out his hand as he would say this. The name's Dionysus. I'm a god. As he would say this. Oh, hello there. As he would say this. I'm here because I wanted to help you, including, well, Miss Loki over there. As she would say this. Yeah, apparently they have some business in the 15th floor as well. As he would say this. So, why are we here exactly? As he would say this, being, wait for a second, being Loki. As she would say this. Well, apparently Leafia reported on something happening. Apparently there was this woman who summoned out these monsters. And apparently these monsters were not normal. Can you explain, Leafia? As Leafia would say this. Yeah. Remember the Monsterphilia incident? As he would say this. Wait, they're infected as well? As she would say this. Yeah, we saw that firsthand. And one of them almost killed Eyes. As Belle would say this. What? As one of them would say this, being, Dionysus, saying, can you please explain? So, to explain what the heck are these, infected monsters, as he would say this. So, these monsters are not even normal monsters? You're telling me that they're... Oh no. Well, this is gonna be interesting. And, as for me, I want you to bring her, as this woman right beside her would, or at least right beside him, would basically come forward, as she would introduce herself. She would say, Hi, my name is Philvis Chilia. As he would say this. Nice meeting you. As she would look at his, face. As she would say this. Did something happen to you? As he would say this. Oh, that. Please don't talk about it. As she would say this. Did I offend you, or as he would say this? No, I just prefer not to talk about it. As Dionysus would say this to, Loki. Is there something wrong with your new adventure over there? He definitely seems new. Never met him. As he would say this, being Loki. Oh, that's my new recruit. His name is Bell Nikotich. As she would say this, I meant he. I see. And what's with his eye and discolored skin? It's not normal. As she would say this. Oh, it's something, alright, but we prefer not to talk about it, especially if it comes to Bell himself. As Bell would say this. So what time are we going? As Philvis would say this. How about in a few hours? As Bell would say this. Very well. I'll get some supplies. As he would start grabbing, like a bag that he had, nearby him, as he would start going back to his room to get some supplies. And as for Bet, he would start leaving to go get ready as well. As for Leafia, she wants to have some rest, so she's going to be doing something important as well. So, after that, a few hours have gone by as they're basically waiting outside for... Wait for a second. Philvis. As everybody's basically just waiting outside for Philvis would finally arrive as Dionysus would say this. So Philvis, I want you to be careful, okay? as she would say this. Don't worry, my god. And besides, I'm quite capable. After all, I am one of your subordinates, after all. As he would smile, as he would say this. Right, take care. As for Loki, she would also say take care as well. So, as everybody is basically leaving to go into the dungeon, they would go there without any hitches, without any attacks, or anything like that. So yeah, thankfully they didn't get attacked by random monsters, and they started bonding a little bit, maybe even having a bit of fun in the, little trip. Wait for a second. So, as they arrive, they see that the town is not doing so well. So, while they're basically just like looking around, they would ask the townspeople if they found, or at least like seen, eyes. They didn't really see her, and most of them would just look at Bell most of the time because he's wearing a metal mask. Some of them even asked why he's wearing it, but Bell would just ignore them. So, after a while of trying to find, eyes, they didn't have any luck. So, Levia would ask if they, somewhat remember a certain, spell, as one of them would know, being, Philvis. This spell is basically like a tracking spell, so they started using it as they found where the location of eyes is. So, while they're basically running towards that area, they see that several monsters were blocking their path. Those are normal monsters, so thankfully they were killed easily, and while they're basically like running towards that area, they see that Eyes is fighting someone. This woman seems to be something else. Bell recognize that she's also another B.O.W. As Bell would say this, guys, as not Bell, I meant Beth would say this. What is it? As he would say this, that's a B.O.W. As he would say this, wait, you mean, as Eyes would start clashing with this woman, as she would start creating almost these wolf-like claws, as Beth would say this, what the? As this woman would start charging towards her, as she starts slashing at her, almost like an animal, as Eyes would be in instant pain, as Bell would just jump into the fray, as he would grab his knife, as he would start slashing at her, as she would say this, another B.O.W. just like me. So, you must be Tyrant-type Zeus, right? As he would say this. So you're working for... As she would say this. Yes, I am working for Mr. Ragnar or something like that. After gaining this power, I want to take revenge on my familia's death. As he would say this. What the hell do you mean by that? As he would say this. This woman would give off this creepy smile, showing several rows and rows of teeth, as she would say this. Getting revenge is all I want, and I'll get that no matter what. And you're just standing in my way. As she would jump over towards him, as Belle would just grab his knife and start slashing at her. She would say this. Pathetic. She would start regenerating, as Belle would say this. What the hell? As she would start charging towards him once again, creating almost blades from her hands, as she would start slashing at him, almost like the, I can't remember that specific Terminator, but it's the one that's basically like a shapeshifter. What do I mean by this? The one that's basically like a shapeshifter that literally like, it's basically like the liquid metal one that literally can shapeshift and turn his body into several different like weapons. So, this woman would start slashing at him, as Belle would start to like dodge her, as he would get a slash at one of his eyes, specifically the infected one. I scream out in pain, as she would say this. Pathetic. As she would kick him right in the stomach, as Belle would scream out, as Eyes would see this, as she would say this. No, you're not! As she would start charging towards her, as she would slice her right in half. Like, ripping her torso from her bottom half, as Belle would say this. Ow, my eye! As it starts regenerating, saying this. Ah, God, that bitch. As he would look over and see Eyes basically tired and almost worn out. As Belle would say this. Are you okay, Eyes? As Eyes would say this. Yeah, I'm fine. As Belle would say this. Is Tiona and many others, are the others okay? As she would say this. Yeah, they're fine. I think so. So, as this woman would basically come back to life, her bottom half would reattach to her top half as she would say this. You're quite persistent. I obligate you. Or at least, I applaud you for that. But unfortunately, this is going to be the end for you. As she would grab a piece of debris as she would throw it at both Belle and, well, Eyes. Belle would basically use his, his skill, Devour, to basically destroy the rock flying towards them. But the occurring debris would basically block out their eyes, causing her to basically disappear. As Beth would arrive, including the rest of the others, saying, "What the heck happened?" As Belle would say this. Another B.O.W. Similar to me. As everybody would just be, what? Including, well, Rivia. Not, like Rivia is usually, like, stern and cold, but after hearing this, she would just be, what? As for, what is her name? Philbus, she would say this. So, can you please mind telling me what is this B.O.W. thing? I didn't really, listen to you during your little explanation. As Belle would say this. Are you serious? As she would say this. What? It was a really good book. As Belle would just like sigh and just explains everything. As she would say this. I see. How interesting. As Belle would say this. So, are all of you guys okay? As Tione would say this. Yeah, I'm fine. As Izuku would basically hug her, saying, thank God that you're okay. As she would start blushing as she would say this. Please get off me. As, well, Tiona would basically glare at him as Belle would say this. Oh, sorry about that. I was kinda worried about you. As Beth would say this. Shut up, you damn lovebirds. Yeesh, just go get a room or something like that. As both Belle and Tione would basically start blushing a little bit more. And as for Tiona, well, she would also be extra pissed. Oh boy. So, after that day, they would start leaving the dungeon to go back home, because apparently their mission is finally over. So, after that day, they would start doing some more trading, and it turns out that Eyes would be in level, 6, and as for Belle, he would be a level 3. So, and apparently he also gets a brand new skill, which, let's just say, Miss Loki was just like, okay, how the fuck are you even this super overpowered? As Belle would just say this. What? You would just look at her with this almost confused face as she would say this. Oh, it's your new skill. How are you even this powerful? At least I'm lucky that you're on my side. As Belle would say this. Yeah, I guess so. As she would explain the brand new skill that he was given. Apparently it's called Blitz, which basically allows him to basically run at super fast speeds. As Belle would think in his mind, why did I get that skill in the first place? As she would say this, I don't know, maybe ask yourself? And, oh, how are you even this super overpowered? She would basically just like sigh as she would say this. But luckily you're in our, familia. As Belle would say this. I guess you're right. As she would say this. Anyway, you should probably go now. As Belle would say this. Sure. So, after basically leaving, he would start going towards his, room to basically do some other types of shit. Wait for a second. So, apparently, while this is basically happening after that little, incident in the dungeon, apparently, Leafia wants to have some, meanwhile training, or at least like some personal training from Eyes. And after a while of basically training with her, Bell is wondering if he needs to get a brand new weapon because his knife is pretty good, but he does need to get something else in case of like his knife basically breaking. Because in case of his like powers not working as well, it would be pretty terrible. As Bell would basically ask that Eyes would basically bring him to to the item shop to basically get new weapons. So, as Eyes would tell Rivia about this, wait for a second. I meant Leafia, not Rivia. I mean, their names are completely similar, so I sometimes mix them up. But still, anyway. So, as Belle would basically tell her about, basically going with Belle to get new weapons, she would basically say this. Sure. I'll do some training with Philvis. She's actually pretty kind to me for some reason. So yeah. So the next day comes as Belle and surprisingly wait for a second, Tione wants to join as well. So Tione, Belle, and also Eyes would start going to the item shop to get new weapons. As Belle would say this, so Tione, why are you coming with us exactly? As she would say this, well, during the whole incident, I kinda broke my sword. As Belle would say this, huh, I guess that's why. As she would say this, why do you look so... As Belle would say this, well, because of your immense strength, I thought your sword might break, eventually. As she would say this, huh, I guess so. So, as they basically arrive at the item shop, specifically Hephaestus' item shop, Hephaestus was currently making a brand new weapon. In this case, well, guns. In this case, it's mostly like flintlock pistols now, because the designs that are given to him or given to her by Belle were a bit too complicated, so she's decided to like compromise it. So, when Belle arrives, he would see that, well, Hephaestus and her followers are making new weapons, as Belle would recognize them as like flintlock pistols and flintlock rifles. As Hephaestus would say this, oh, hello, Belle. Wait, Eyes? Tione? What are you doing here? As one of them would say this, we're looking for new weapons. As Tione would say this, yeah, mine broke. As Belle would say this, I'm looking for a new weapon, in case of my knife being broken or something like that. As she would say this, well, you come to the right place. After all, I finished up some brand new weapons, especially for you, Belle. So, after they got into her office, she would show a brand new weapon to Belle. Belle's new weapon would resemble, imagine like the crossbow or bow from like Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Yeah, that thing, aka the sleeve, which, my god, is one of my favorite weapons. So, Belle would be given this thing, and it's basically like a medieval, almost like fantasy-ish version of it. As Belle would say this, whoa, it's quite light for being, or at least, it kind of looks pretty heavy, but for some reason it's super light. As she would say this, well, it's thanks to yours truly, after all. So, I call this the Stains Leaf. It's a mix of a bow and your designs for you called it a gun? As Belle would say this, yeah. Huh. So what is the ammo? As she would say this, well, these. I saw one of your sketches for these bullets or the ammo that you made for a specific gun. I think you called it a shotgun or something. As you would say this, so what does it do? As she would say this, oh, just try it on a monster, and trust me, it's that powerful. So, Belle would basically have this almost interest, like this almost like glint in his eyes, being super happy. And as for, well, Yone, she would say this, so how about my weapon? I kind of broke mine. As she would say this, oh, don't worry, I finished up a brand new weapon for you. As she would bring out this gigantic ass Buster Sword. Just imagine the Buster Sword from like Final Fantasy, but kind of in the style of like of Damanchi. What do I mean by this? Well, it's just basically gigantic and a little bit more fantasy-ish. As she would say this, "Whoa, I like this." And as for Ai, she would be given new armor and a new sword, which is much lighter and seems to have this weird thing on it, as Belle would recognize it as a gun barrel. As Belle would say this to, wait for a second, says this to Hephaestus. So you gave her a goddamn, like, sword gun. That doesn't sound concerning. I mean, she doesn't even know how to wield one. As she would say this, "Oh, don't worry. Besides, you do know how to wield guns." As this, "Yeah, but still." As she would say this, "Don't worry. Besides, you did give me some of those blueprints, so these things are free." As they would be, like, shocked, as she would say this, "Well, it's a thanks for you to making me, some ideas. And especially renewing my inspiration. Anyway, tug along now. I should be going back to work." So, as Belle, Eyes, and, what is her name? Tione are leaving, they would basically be excited, getting ready to maybe try their brand new weapons. But for Belle, he would carry his, Dine's Leaf like weapon in his, back, as everybody's looking at those brand new weapons, saying, "What the heck are those? And what the heck are those weapons?" So, yeah. Wait for a second. So, it's basically now late at night while they're basically going back to their, main, like their main base of operations. As not Leafy, I meant Belle, Tione, and Eyes are basically, just like going through a dark alleyway. While they were talking, they feel a bit of a presence. As Belle would say this, "Hey guys, I think somebody is looking for a fight." As several people came down from the sky, as they seemed to be mercenaries or something, because they look like they're getting ready to kill them. As Belle would say this, "So, let's try out this brand new weapon then." As Eyes would bring out this, her brand new sword gun, and as for, Tione, she would bring out her brand new Buster Sword. So, they would get ready to strike at the, enemy, as they start charging at them, as this is going to be the end of the episode. Sorry. Sorry, so this is going to be a cliffhanger, so yeah. So, I hope you'll like the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!